Kelly and Kevin Jackson for unpaid rent and property damage.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2116, versus Kelly Jackson.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. You purchased a duplex home, 2 different apartments.
That's correct.
In what month and year did you purchase the home?
November of 2020.
And when you purchased it, one of the duplexes was occupied by the defendants.
That's correct.
It is your claim that they owe you for rent
Yes.
and for property damage.
That's correct.
They are no longer there.
No.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
How long were you and your wife living in the duplex before November of 2020?
We moved in June of 2019.
And at the time, do you recall who your landlord was in June of 2019?
Yes.
Between June of 2019, when you first moved in, and November of 2020, when the plaintiff bought the property, was there any work done on that property?
Not at all.
No maintenance?
No maintenance.
Okay. So from the time you moved in, the prior owner did no maintenance on that property, did no painting?
Just the minor stuff before we moved in. They just painted and just had everything looking nice, the floors.
So just a second. So the prior owner painted the premises and did the floors?
Yes, it was carpet and some flooring in the kitchen.
And Mr. did not do any other painting or flooring or any cosmetic work on the duplex when he purchased it in November of 2020?
No.
So whatever was there by the previous owner of the property is still there?
Yes.
I'm just asking you this because your counterclaim is for child endangerment, and the child endangerment is because of lead paint. That's what you write here.
Yes.
He didn't put in the lead paint, right?
Yes, thinking about that.
He didn't paint it. You don't know when it was painted. Maybe it was painted by the prior owner. How do you know? By the way, do you have medical records of the child that you claim has lead poisoning?
Yes.
I'd like to see them.
Jackson hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy.
Yes, you.
She reviews it.
I have no idea what this says.
That's the piece of paper that he gave me from the hospital.
Well, I don't understand
for
it.
his blood work.
I'm not a doctor, so I can't.
Okay.
We have something from the health department also stating that because my son his lead was found in his system, they got involved.
I understand that. He did not paint the apartment.
No, ma'am.
Just for my own curiosity, when you bought this place, do you remember the purchase of it? And when you purchase a property, usually there's an inspection.
Yes.
And one of the questions usually has to do with lead paint. Do you remember any of that from when you purchased the property?
I didn't receive any notification of lead paint from the inspectors.
Well, usually they sign off that there is no lead paint.
I don't remember seeing because they never mentioned anything about it.
Nothing about lead paint?
No.
Okay. Did you ever have the home tested, by the way, for lead?
Only when we found out about my son having lead.
Okay. And do you have the test result?
And there was lead found in 2 places, not just the bathtub.
Miss Kelly, the issue is he didn't do any of that painting.
Right.
He bought the place. You had been living there for a year and a half before he bought the place.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. And your son was born within that year and a half.
Well, we moved there, he was 6 months.
He was 6 months old, so he lived there for a year and a half even before he purchased it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We did buy the things to fix the bathroom up. He told us to take them back to fix the tub and everything because we asked him to fix it. So the things we had, like to get the tub fixed, the flooring and everything, he told us to take back.
How many people were living in the duplex?
In our apartment?
In your apartment?
4.
4. Including the baby?
Yes, ma'am.
Including the baby. And how old's the other child?
She's 14.
Okay. Do you have that report?
No. This is just stating where it was at.
The health department?
Yes. I thought that piece of paper that I gave you was that one.
No.
This is just.
This doesn't say
This is just showing where the lead was found in the house.
How old is this duplex?
It was built in 1906, so almost 115 years or so.
Yeah. And they certainly used lead paint
Possibly,
then.
yeah, I'm not sure about
I'm
it.
not sure.
I don't
But-
understand about it.
Ms. Kelly, Mr. Jackson, that's not his fault. That's not his fault. So now I would like to know, Mr. Uno is suing you for rent. And I'd like to know first, how much rent were you paying?
$750.
And that's what you were paying under the old lease?
Yes.
And were you current on your rent when Mr. Yuno took over the property?
Yes.
In November of 2020?
Yes.
So far correct?
That's accurate.
When did you stop paying rent?
December of 2021.
So you paid rent for a year?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you working, Mr. Jackson?
Yes, when I first moved in, yes, I was working 2 jobs.
And were you working from November of 2020 to December of 2021?
Yes, I was.
For whom?
Yes, I was. I was working for TGI Fridays.
And Ms. Kelly, were you working?
No, ma'am, I'm disabled.
And how much were you receiving in pay?
I was only getting,
If you have to think about it, you don't remember.
I wasn't getting too much because it was during COVID, and I was working at a restaurant, and I was only allowed to work 3 days out of the week.
Okay. And what happened in December of 2021?
What happened was he already sent us a letter previously saying that he wanted to go up on the rent to a.
Okay.
Yes, to
so you
$1,000.
had no lease anymore, and he wanted to raise the rent. Okay.
Caption coming up.
I believe you. And that was the reason that you used to try to evict them before.
Yes, that was the first one, but I don't agree with his statement.
Well, what statement don't you agree with?
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Isaac, Envy, and Jackson.
Isaac Yuno claims his former tenants, Envy Kelly and Kevin Jackson, owe for unpaid rent and property damage. Envy and Kevin are countersuing for child endangerment and a constructive eviction.
And in what month was that?
He sent it to us, I want to say.
Do you remember, Mr. Yuno?
It was 90 days before the 1st of December, so that would have been, I think, September 31st or October 31st. Maybe.
That he was raising the rent to what?
To $1,000 a month.
Effective December.
Yes, December 1st.
And what happened in December?
We were, at that time, looking for a new apartment, and at that time it was hard because around that time, a lot of the rent was going up from just being like $800, $900 to like $1,200 to $1,400 for rent for a month there.
Don't speak.
Okay.
And that was, why we stopped paying rent, because we were actually looking for a house, even when he gave us the 90 days.
Okay. So, Mr. Jackson, based upon what you just told me, so stop shaking your head, based upon what you told me, your landlord gave you 90 days notice that if you wish to stay on, he was raising your rent to $1,000 a month.
Yes.
And you started to look around for a new place.
Yes.
And the new places were very expensive.
Yes.
And you didn't find a place.
No.
So you decided to stay in this place.
No.
So what did you do?
We.
So if
Actually,
you didn't
we-
find a place
We decided
in December,
It was trying to stay there until we found a place.
I assume they paid rent in September.
Yes,
Oh yes, yes.
In October,
yes,
Yes.
they paid rent in October.
yes.
Good. And November?
November was the last month that they paid.
So they paid in November.
Yes.
So you stopped paying rent in December of 2021.
Yes.
Do you,
Can I say
don't?
what? Oh,
No,
sorry.
you cannot.
Okay.
If I need you,
Yes,
I'll
ma'am.
come to you.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Okay?
Okay.
Because so far he's doing fine. You stopped paying rent in December of 2021. Tell me why.
We didn't want to live there ourselves anymore either, but it was just a lot of things going on at the house. Like after my father passed away, and he first gave us the first eviction notice, because he gave us more than one.
Just a second.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We're skipping over.
Okay.
He didn't give you an eviction notice, I assume, until you stopped paying rent.
No, before December, he gave us like 3 of them. I think I want to say 3.
Really?
Yes.
Why were you trying to evict them before?
They had torn up the carpet upstairs. It was a moratorium for evictions, but there was a stipulation that emergency evictions for nuisance tenants could be granted before then.
Is there any reason why you took up the carpets?
Yes. The same thing. Before he took over, everything was in the house before that, and we complained to the previous owner that the carpet was already dirty. They said that they were going to come and shampoo it, but never did. Like, we would walk and our socks would be black, our feet would be black, so we wanted to take the carpet up. It was dirty to us. And I myself actually told him about it. I went downstairs to his apartment because he lived downstairs from us. Talked to him about it. He came upstairs, and I showed him a section of the carpet that wasn't even connected to the floor. You can lift up the whole carpet and like across a whole section of the wall. And then when I did that, he seen that the hardwood looked kind of decent. And then instead of putting new carpet on, he wanted the hardwood to get sanded down and just get stained and and lacquered over.
So you took the carpet off?
Yes.
I believe you. Sounds right, Mr. Okay. And that was the reason that you used to try to evict them before?
Yes, that was the first one. But I don't agree with his statement.
Well, what statement don't you agree with?
Well, a number of things that he said. I didn't authorize him. We spoke. I asked him in the first meeting if there was anything that they wanted to have spruced up or anything as a good gesture, and they took it upon themselves to take up the carpet without my permission.
Okay, not a huge deal. Not a huge deal. You can use it as a huge deal if you want your tenants out because you can re-rent that duplex for substantially more money.
It was more about their conduct, that they were being very disturbing behavior and just being off the wall. So I wanted them out for a lot of reasons.
Well, I know, but only one of them qualified under the eviction moratorium.
Yes, for emergency of dismantling the
Only
place.
one, and that would have been the carpet. Okay, Mr. Jackson.
Yes.
I'm back to you, sir. I haven't figured out yet. You stopped paying rent in December, and you moved out in what month?
We didn't move out until June.
June. So January, February, March, April, and May. Let's say 5 months' rent that you didn't pay, correct?
Yes.
Why?
Can I speak, Your Honor?
No, him. Tell me why you didn't pay the 5 months' rent, Mr. Jackson.
We just figured that, we didn't figure. We didn't want to pay him $1,000 because to us,
Okay, so
we felt
let's
that,
say you didn't want to pay him $1,000, even though you just told me finding another place would be more expensive, right? You said $1,200, $1,400, but you didn't give him $750. You gave him $0 for those 5 months. So I'm going to come back to you, Mr. Jackson. Does your wife receive disability payments because of her disability?
Yes.
Yes. How much a month?
That I don't know.
How much a
never
month
got
do you
into that.
receive, Ms. Kelly?
$1,000.
$1,000. And did you continue to receive that $1,000 every month from December until June?
Yes, ma'am.
You see, certain things remain constant. Your disability payments remain constant.
Right.
If you live in an apartment and you have the same sort of income, then you pay rent.
Right.
And if you didn't pay $1,000, so I hear you. Well, that's what he said he wanted. And he's the landlord. And he's allowed to do that if you're going to stay in his premises. But you paid nothing, Mr. Jackson, and that's what I don't understand.
Well, the furnace was busted.
Just a second.
Yeah.
Miss Kelly.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
What? You paid nothing.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah.
Where did you move in June?
Moved in the same area, like kind of like probably 10 minutes away from that particular street.
Is it a private house or an apartment?
It's a house. Well, it's a duplex as well.
Duplex. So the same sort of setup. And how much rent are you paying?
Pay $950.
So almost as much as he wanted in his rent. But are you more comfortable in that unit?
Yes.
Okay.
Caption coming up.
My wife walked down there and asked, was he the landlord? He just said that he was the building manager. So nobody even got rent for the month of November when we lived there, not him or even the previous people, because he didn't even come upstairs and introduce us.
Well,
But,
I wouldn't complain about that, sir, if you're ahead of the game so far.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Isaac, Anvy, and Jackson.
Isaac claims his tenants, Anvy Kelly and Kevin Jackson, owe for unpaid rent and property damage. Anvy and Kevin claim Isaac forced them to leave.
Now, you saved over 5 months, let's say minimally $750.
$37.50.
$37.50. Now, Mr. the only question that I have to ask you is, Mr. Jackson and Miss Kelly say that they filled out some sort of forms for rent relief during COVID, and you signed it. And they say you received money from the state for any unpaid rent. Did you receive any money from the state for rent that they didn't pay?
No, I approached them with an application, but the program that funds the landlord relief for the moratorium was only open for 1 month, and I came and went, and I missed it, and I never got it. So I did have them fill out something. It was just a hardship thing, but they didn't give me the money for it. I never received anything.
So you didn't receive any money. So far, Ms. Kelly and Mr. Jackson, you owe Mr. $3,750 for rent that you didn't pay while you occupied his premises. You, your furniture, your children, I don't care what it is. That's what you didn't pay. And you can't save up your money and not pay your landlord. That's his business. Just like you work for Fridays and you get your pay when you're supposed to, that's his business. He bought a house. He was counting on the income from that house to pay some of his expenses, and you didn't pay it. Well, there's no question you have to pay it. Now you have a counterclaim. I've already gotten rid of child endangerment. This is 150 years old. Constructive eviction. So I'd like you to tell me your allegations of constructive eviction.
Is that like from him not doing anything to the apartment while we lived there?
I assume. You say you were constructively evicted.
Yes, he...
But you didn't leave.
Yes, he has a couple of text messages in here where he says that he actually came up to the apartment to check things. He brought up when he first got there in November, we didn't have a working toilet until...
Just a second.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
So before he bought it, is that what you're telling me?
I mean, not before, I'm sorry. When he got the apartment in November, the previous owners, we were trying to contact to see who we pay for rent.
Just a second.
Okay, yeah.
He bought the duplex in November of 2020.
Yes.
Is what you're telling me, Mr. Jackson, that certain things weren't working prior to his purchasing the property?
No, I'm sorry. I want to take that back. After he purchased it, we didn't even know he purchased it because he was living downstairs, and my wife walked down there and asked, was he the landlord? And he just said that he was the building manager. So nobody even got rent for the month of November when we lived there, not him or even the previous people, because he didn't even come upstairs and introduce us.
Well, but, I wouldn't complain about that, sir, if you're ahead of the game so far. If you didn't pay rent for November. You didn't pay the prior landlord, and you didn't pay him. So far, you're ahead $750. Okay, keep going.
To go back to the November, so during November, our toilet got stopped up, like right before Thanksgiving.
So shortly after he purchased it, he hadn't been up in the apartment, right?
No,
just
at all.
You, your wife, your teenage daughter, and the baby.
Yeah, and the kids.
Okay, and the toilet got stopped up, and
he brought in a plumber, and then the guy found out that my son put a little toy in there, and he actually got the toy out.
So the toilet was broken by your son. Okay, so now the plumber said, here's the toy. Kid threw a toy down the toilet. Not an unusual, and
then the very next month in December, my son didn't put anything down there. The toilet started acting up again. It wouldn't flush for like all the way up until the next year, and it never got fixed. But it was from...
Well, you had to have, sir, you lived there with 3 adults. So there had to be a functioning toilet in the house.
It wasn't functioning.
So where did you go to use a functioning restroom?
Her mom lived up the street from us, so sometimes we lived up the street, or sometimes we would just still use the toilet.
Okay. You owe him $3,750 for rent that you didn't pay. Counterclaims dismissed. We're finished. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
Outside the courtroom, Isaac, then Jackson.
I had to collect money, a monetary judgment through the courts.
Him being the landlord, he left us like living in crappy conditions.
It was a unbearable situation that I was going through with the noise and the disturbances.
Yeah, he never came up there at all to fix anything.
And the destruction of the property.
He just started making up so many rules, to make it uncomfortable for us to live there.
Oh, it was, it's pretty quiet now.
That man is crazy. I'm glad it's over with.
Judy and Sarah.
You know what I think is interesting, Sarah, with these cases, we've had a lot of them. The forgiveness that the government wanted to show to people who were having trouble during COVID, work-related trouble, didn't have the same income, and didn't want to have a whole bunch of dispossessed homeless people. It came from a good place, as did some of the monies that were sent out by the government to sort of help people over a difficult time during the height of COVID. But then there are other people who suffer as a result of that, like a landlord who buys a property, a duplex property. Part of it is for income so that they can pay off mortgage, taxes, lawn service, whatever you have to pay on a house. And then the defendants who really had no changed circumstances that they indicated to me. He was working, she was getting whatever she gets from disability, which is not insubstantial. I don't know if they get any other assistance for any of their other children, but certainly they moved into a place that's more expensive now, that's not far away. They just decided not to pay rent. And I don't think that that is the spirit of what either the federal government or the states who enacted it meant to happen, because the plaintiff owner of this property has rights too. Yeah. You've taken away a right of his.
I agree to an extent, but I also think that that's more a problem on the government's implementation of the moratorium in the first place. That's what ended up hurting.
A dog attack.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case number 2002, Kwan versus Lancaster.
Mr. Kwan, succinctly, your case involves an attack of a dog that was being walked by Miss Lancaster. She was dog walker, she didn't own the dog.
Correct.
Dog got away from her, and according to you, attacked your dog, and you want to be compensated to the tune of $10,000.
Correct.
You were neither hospitalized, correct?
I was not hospitalized.
You were neither hospitalized, and your dog was not hospitalized.
Correct.
I assume that you have some medical evidence as a result of this incident to show me that you suffered from a dog bite.
Yes.
Okay. And the dog bite was from the dog that was being walked by Miss Lancaster.
Walked is, I'm not sure if I would use the term.
She's a dog walker.
Yes,
She's
but it was off
walker.
leash.
She's not the owner of the dog.
Correct.
The incident happened at what date and time?
December 22nd, 2021 at approximately 1:30 p.m.
And you were walking your dog, which is what breed?
A 20-pound wiener dog mix.
And you were a dog walker. How long had you been in charge of walking this dog?
At that point, it was about a week.
What kind of dog was it?
I believe it was a boxer mix. Not 100% sure.
How old?
2, 3 years old, give or take.
Who are the owners of the dog?
The owners, I can't remember their name. One of Mike, but I don't remember their last names. But
you remember the owners' names?
Yes.
And it would be fair to say that you knew their names because you tried to sue them.
I contacted them, yes, but did not sue them.
And you contacted them because they're the owners of the dog and they have a house. Mm-hmm. Is not an answer.
Yes.
And a house usually has homeowners insurance.
Correct.
Correct? And after contacting them, and it's their dog, so they are ultimately responsible for their dog, you opted not to seek compensation for your alleged injuries and this attack, but to sue the dog walker.
Correct.
Just for my own information, Mr. Kwan, do you want to tell me why you did that?
Yeah. So per California strict liability law, anybody who takes physical ownership or responsibility for a dog is also responsible for any sort of attacks or damages it causes while they are responsible for that dog. Regardless
okay, just a second. So what you're saying is in the state of California, if you are walking a dog, and she says she was walking this dog for a week, how many times a day, every day?
2 times a day.
Twice a day. And she had this job for a week, that under all circumstances, she is responsible for any injury that the dog does. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
And what code is that?
I have a statute over here.
Just tell me the statute.
Per California dog bite law. I don't have the number, but I can bring it up to the,
Would you bring it up?
the court.
It's California Civil Code 3342.
Do you have it?
I could pull it up. I have my notes.
Could you pull it up for me? And I'll come back to you in a second, Sarah. I'm just curious about it. Okay, now let's tell me about the incident, sir.
Sure. So at the time that I described earlier, I was walking my 20-pound wiener dog mix while my mother walked my infant son, who was 3 months at the time, in a stroller.
Care.
Okay.
I mean, it's not that I don't care about him and I don't care about your mother, but they have nothing to do with this case.
Well, they do have something to do with this case because when we turned onto the block, I turned and I saw an off-leash dog roughly 3 times the size of mine. And I saw the defendant, Miss Lancaster. She gave no warning that the dog was off leash. And at that point, I later learned that the dog...
No, don't tell me, just tell me what happened, sir.
Okay.
You saw Miss Lancaster and she was walking this dog off leash.
Correct.
And?
She gave no indication?
No, not that she gave me no indication.
Okay.
She was walking this dog off leash.
Correct.
So you saw the dog off leash.
Yes.
Okay.
And
about how far were you from her when you saw the dog off leash?
across the street, so roughly 40 feet.
Okay, and?
The dog charged across the street.
Okay, the dog ran across the street.
Yes, and started aggressively biting, lunging, and barking at my dog.
Okay, so at that point, the dog ran across the street and is in an aggressive stance barking at your dog.
Correct.
Hadn't touched your dog.
Correct.
Okay, what happened next?
It then diverted its attention towards my infant son in a stroller and my mother and started jumping on the stroller.
Did the dog, in fact, jump on the stroller?
Yes.
And?
And my response was to try to divert the attention.
What did you do? The dog jumped on the stroller.
Yes.
Didn't hurt your son, didn't hurt your mother.
Yes. So I got the attention of the dog again.
How did you do that?
By picking up my dog, who was on leash.
Well, that doesn't necessarily get attention of the dog. You say, hey!
Correct.
No.
Correct.
But you didn't say that. You just picked up your dog.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Probably exclaimed in
No.
the attention of the dog.
You told me what you did. You picked up your dog and
started running across the street.
Started running across the street in the direction of where the dog had come from?
Correct.
And at that time, the dog was on the other side of the street.
Yes.
So let me understand this. You pick up your dog. Your mother is standing behind you in the stroller with your son. You leave your mother, your son on one side of the street, and you grab your wiener dog mix and run across the street.
Correct. This was after I got the attention of the dog, by the way.
Okay. So now you got the attention of the dog.
Yes.
Ran across the street, so you were trying to divert the dog's attention, and the dog followed you.
Yes, it chased me.
Good. And you were running in her direction?
No. The Miss Lancaster had crossed the street at that point to where we were originally walking.
She was on your side of the street. You were going back to where you had initially seen her.
Correct.
Okay, so she had followed her dog across the street.
Yes.
Was she saying anything?
We made repeated pleas to ask for her to control the situation.
She ran across the street, because all this happened within seconds.
Yes.
She ran across the street. Was she saying anything to the dog?
She was yelling, "I'm so sorry, and I can't do anything."
Okay, is that what you were yelling?
I think I was yelling, "I'm so sorry, I don't know what to do," because I was in an extreme state of panic. I was probably having a panic attack.
I'm so sorry, I don't know what to do. Okay, and?
And after I ran across the street, when the dog chased me, I fell down. The dog ended up biting me on my left arm.
Okay, and I'd like to see whatever medical report you have from the bite on your left arm.
So the doctor said that...
No, don't tell me what the doctor said.
I haven't...
Could I see?
I have a picture.
May I see?
Absolutely.
A medical... Did you understand my words? I said, may I see a medical report
I do not
from
have a
doctor.
medical report.
So you didn't go to the doctor? Question is, did you go to the doctor, Mr.
I did
Kwan?
a virtual doctor's visit because this was during the height of the pandemic.
And what was the name of the doctor with whom you had a virtual visit?
I do not remember.
Should remember. You're suing for $10,000. You should have all that information. Because if you have a virtual medical visit, Mr. Kwan, there is a record of that. Doctor keeps a record of that. Do you understand?
Correct.
Okay. So now you're down, and this happened, according to you, on December 22nd. Did you get the dog's information?
I did.
On December 22nd?
Yes.
When did you speak to the owners of the dog?
I spoke to the owners actually that day because I wanted to get the rabies vaccination paperwork.
Did you get the rabies vaccination paperwork?
Yes.
On the 22nd?
Yes.
Now I'll see your photograph, sir.
I have that statute whenever you're ready.
I got it. Timing is everything.
Sarah grins at Judge Judy. Kevin hands Judy a photo of a leg with contusions on it. She dons her glasses, then examines it.
Okay, so the knee injury is when you fell.
Correct.
And the arm is a combination scratch and maybe tooth mark.
Yes, there are tooth marks on there, but not punctures.
Well, I don't know. This long thing is not a tooth mark. So just one other question, Mr. Kwan. When you told the owners about this on the 22nd, when was the next time you contacted them? First, you wanted to find out whether or not the dog had received rabies shots. You were satisfied that it did, that you didn't have to see a doctor other than a virtual visit with a doctor whose name you don't remember. When did you decide not to sue the owners of the dog, who are homeowners, and who have homeowners insurance.
Yep, I wrote the owners of the dog a demand letter, and that is when I contacted them back, probably about 2 months after the incident.
Okay, so you wrote them a demand letter.
Correct.
And did they respond to your demand letter?
Yes.
Do you have copies of those letters?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see copies of your letter and their response.
Derek hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy.
That's the demand letter that I
just want to see copies of your letter and their response. Are they both here?
They did. They responded by calling me on the phone, not with a formal written statement.
Really?
Caption coming up.
Through a series of conversations, I decided that my grievance was not towards them because they were not exhibiting negligence in this situation.
Oh, no, I don't believe that, Mr. Kwan. Be very careful about what you say to me, sir.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Derek and Danielle.
Derek Kwan claims dog walker Danielle Lancaster owes for injuries resulting from a dog attack.
Okay. Well, you say the dog's a pit bull. The dog was a pit bull?
I believe so.
Dog a pit bull?
I asked after the incident. I did ask as well if it was a pit bull. They said no, it's a boxer mix.
You have a video of the incident. You have a video. Somebody has a video.
Yeah.
Correct.
Someone's Ring camera.
Okay. I'm going to allow you to tell me what the owner said in the conversation that they had with you. I'm not accepting it for the truth of the statement, only that you had a conversation with them, which is why you brought this action against Miss Lancaster today.
Correct.
So they decided, we're not going to put this in writing, we're going to call Mr. Kwan.
Correct.
And what did they tell you?
They were very amicable about the situation, and were trying to solve the situation to make me whole.
Being amicable is subjective. I want you to tell me what you said to them and what they said to you.
What they said to me was that they would look into their homeowner's insurance policy in order to compensate me. Through a series of conversations, I decided that my grievance was not towards them because they were not exhibiting negligence in this situation.
Oh, no, I don't believe that, Mr. Kwan. Be very careful about what you say to me, sir. As between homeowners who have insurance and this young woman who has to walk dogs for a living, if I was somebody interested in $17,000, I wouldn't sue her. I would sue somebody who had, Kathy Bates said in one of my favorite movies, I'm older and I have more insurance. So that answer that you just gave me was a whole lot of who shot John. The reason you decided not to proceed against the dog's owners is what?
The reason why I proceeded not to go against the dog's owners is because I have because some things are more important than money. And in this situation, I have more of an issue with the dog walker and her behavior during this situation rather than being compensated.
Well, let me suggest this to you, Mr. Kwan. There is no question that if Miss Lancaster was walking this dog and the dog was off leash, she was negligent. There's also no question in my mind that the extent of your damages is excessive, very excessive. So,
but we're only counting physical damages.
Just a second. What I'm telling you is the amount of your damages is excessive. And if you wanted anywhere near that money, you could have sued both people. You could have sued the owner of the dog, as not only did they have the dog that attacked you, but they have, as Kathy Bates would say, insurance. And you would join the defendant as a party to that action. You would say you're all responsible. You own the dog, which you say was a pit bull, which you say was a pit bull, who just mauled and killed somebody in New York last week. An owner. You didn't do that, so I'm not getting all of this kumbaya business that the person responsible. Do you understand?
Yeah,
I'm just not buying it, Mr. Kwan. We understand each other?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. For somebody who has no medical, you had injuries, and you have to be compensated. You had no good excuse for walking the dog off leash.
I wasn't walking him off leash. When I was in the house happened, I had a key on the other side of the door. When I reached for that key, he scooted as hard as I could between my legs and got out. It wasn't that I was walking him and just decided to take him off the leash.
So you were negligent in letting the dog out?
Unfortunately, yeah. Yes.
But the dog had also been out for an hour at the time of the incident.
Yeah, because when I was trying to get him back in, but many attempts, he was very hard to get in, and at that point I was already having a panic attack, very emotional.
No.
Okay.
Now, Miss Lancaster, let's get it together. Let's get it together. Mr. Kwan says that the dog was out for a period of time, and you weren't chasing the dog when he first saw you. You were in a walking mode. So the dog may have initially gotten out. Miss Lancaster, don't. You know, I'm an ecumenical abuser. Were you out with the dog for a period of time?
Yes.
Did you have a leash in your hand?
I think
is not an answer. Did you have a leash in your hand?
No.
How long were you out with the dog?
Probably around an hour at that point.
Okay.
I was trying to get him back in, and twice I did have him by the collar, and he wasn't having it.
You didn't have him by the collar when he ran across the street?
No, but before then I did.
don't care what happened before then.
Okay.
Before then, I was 21 years old, and I looked great in a bikini. Now, not so much. All right, Mr. Kwan, this letter was written to Miss Lancaster.
Correct.
I asked you for the letter that you wrote to the owners of the dog.
I do not have that with me right now.
Could we key up this video that I understand we have?
Video footage appears of a dog chasing Derek. The dog attacks him. He falls.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
You can see my mother and infant son
so
fleeing.
sorry. I am so sorry.
Call the person out. He bit me.
I know I will because he bit me too. I know.
Just grab him by the neck.
I can't. He bit me twice on my hand already. I don't know what to do. It's been an hour. I seriously don't know what to do. He bit me twice already. And I tried to get him on the leash, and he bit me twice. I don't know what to do. I am so sorry. I am so sorry.
Can I see the beginning of that and see if you can freeze frame on the dog, please? By the way, you do have a leash in your hand.
Yeah, I just realized. Yeah, I do have the leash actually. So
I'm going to walk over to the monitor.
Judy rises from the bench and approaches the video monitor. She examines the freeze frame of the dog, then returns to the bench.
So although the statute uses the word owner, there's vicarious liability if someone else assumed responsibility of the dog, even though the statute is clear, it only lists the word owner. But in California, they could be held liable through vicarious liability, a walker.
A walker.
That assumed responsibility for the animal.
Okay.
Caption coming up.
He neither suffered serious physical injury, certainly not serious enough for him not to go to work for a week, unless you model Bermuda shorts. You don't model Bermuda shorts, do you, Mr. Kwan?
Just in my spare time.
Of course not.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Derek and Danielle.
Derek Kwan says dog walker Danielle Lancaster owes for damages after he was attacked by the dog Danielle was walking.
Okay, so, Miss Lancaster, it does appear to me that you were sort of overwhelmed by this dog.
yes,
But
very much.
bottom line is that Mr. Kwan was injured and frightened, not seriously injured, but seriously enough that if it were me, I would be furious as a result of your negligence. And he neither suffered serious physical injury, certainly not serious enough for him not to go to work for a week. I don't know what kind of work you do, but not serious enough unless you, I don't know, unless you model Bermuda shorts. You don't model Bermuda shorts, do you, Mr. Kwan?
Just in my spare time.
Of course not. And you had no medical bills because you didn't see a doctor, but you were attacked. And I actually don't know why you didn't sue the owners of this dog, which looks scarcely like any boxer I've ever seen. And it is possible in California that certain dogs are not insurable. I don't know the answer to that question. It will not insure you in a homeowner's policy if you have a certain kind of dog. Are you familiar with that, sir?
Yes.
What are you familiar with? You're very familiar with statutes. So what is the law in California with regard to insurance? Can you be denied insurance or have to pay an excess premium if you have a dog that is either a pit bull or a pit bull mix?
I believe so.
You believe so. And would it be a fair statement, sir, that their homeowners either covered their dog or didn't?
They were looking into it, and they had renter's insurance that I believe covered it.
That you believe covered it? Oh, very foolish of you not to go against them. Okay. If you accept responsibility for a dog, you're supposed to be smart enough to look at a dog and say, you know what, why would you ask what kind of dog this is? Now, you let the dog out, and the dog was out with you for an hour.
Yes, yeah.
And during that time, you were walking around the neighborhood, and you had sufficient opportunity. You were walking around the neighborhood.
I wouldn't say walking. I was
were you doing?
clearly trying to get the dog back in, and twice I did have him by the collar, and that's what I said in the video. I had him by the collar, and then both times he turned to nip at me on my wrist, so which is why I let go, because I didn't want to get bit.
I know, you said it.
So I was trying to have him follow me, which is what the owners told me to do. I had treats in my hand.
So you called the owners?
Yes, I did call
you called the owners, and you told the owners what was going on?
Yes, I did. They knew what was going on.
I would have sued the owners. Mr. Kwan, I would have absolutely sued the owners, unless they didn't have insurance that covered the dog, which is a problem for them if they had renter's insurance. In any event, Miss Lancaster, you assumed responsibility of this dog, and based upon your own negligence, your negligence, forget about the dog's breed, forget about these other people. As a result of your negligence, he was injured, and you have to compensate him for that. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. We're finished.
Court is adjourned.
Outside the courtroom, Danielle, then Derek.
I don't think he even got bit.
The doctor said that most of my injuries were emotional, but I did receive a bite from the dog onto my arm, but not a puncture wound.
I think he just, wanted some extra cash from me, because that was probably an easier target.
Even though I didn't have any physical injuries, who knows how long my night terrors will last for.
I was literally having the whole panic attack, which is why, I had the reaction I did.
Yeah, I totally understand that, but the dog was off leash for an hour. She could have called the police or animal control during that time.
Don't open the door even in the slightest to a dog. Just wait till, they're away and gone.
Mostly my MO is getting back at those that I have grievances against.
Judy and Sarah.
Let's not even get started with dog breed, because I think the world knows where I live in that street. Mm-hmm. And 10 days ago, a woman who was watching a pit bull for one of her children, 64-year-old woman, her husband came home from work and found the dog eating her in the backyard. Sadly, she died. And there are certain breeds that are more dangerous than others. People have to recognize that. And if you choose to get a dog that is potentially more dangerous, Sarah, and I know that there are pit bull lovers out there and say, mine is the sweetest, mine is the loveliest, but then you have to accept responsibility if there's an issue. And clearly this dog was an issue, because I believe this young woman. Mm-hmm. Didn't you believe her?
I believed her, and I think that dog walkers should also be cautious of what animals they're choosing to walk, because she could be held vicariously liable. So you might want to stick to 5-pound chihuahuas from now on, maybe.
Right. I mean, she was visibly very
distressed.
Upset. Visibly, and she said on the video, he bit me twice on the hand because she tried to get a hold of him. But she was still out with the dog for an hour. But he was, in fact, injured. Mm-hmm. And whether he went to the hospital or not, that's pretty...
Year-old Jennifer Santiago for medical bills after being hit by a car.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Judge Judy takes her seat behind the bench.
Case number 2020, Hildreth Mahasani versus Santiago.
Thank you. Miss Hildreth.
Yes.
Pronounce your last name for me, sir.
Mahasani.
Mahasani.
Yes.
You two were crossing the street in San Diego?
In Carlsbad Village.
Is that in San Diego?
It is. It's a suburb of San Diego.
Is that where you live?
Correct, in Carlsbad.
And you were hit by Miss Santiago, who was driving her mother's car.
Correct.
Miss Santiago acknowledges that she hit you, and you were seriously injured. You've had shoulder surgery. You were both injured.
Correct.
When did this happen?
This happened on Friday, September 4th, 2020.
I just have a couple of preliminary questions before I get into the facts of it.
Sure.
I assume that since this accident happened in 2020, that you tried to sue either the defendant and or her mother as the car's owner.
Well, we would have done so, but the driver was uninsured.
That's the question. You would have done so,
yes.
Except the mother had no insurance.
It is my knowledge that the mother had insurance, but that and which I have the evidence, that her daughter was excluded from the policy.
The policy, and therefore the insurance company disclaimed.
Correct.
I'd like to see that.
Absolutely.
That's why your mother's not here.
No, Your Honor.
Okay, that's why your mother's not here, Miss Santiago.
Without her knowing.
Miss Santiago, that's why your mother's not here.
No.
Well.
Judy glares at Jennifer.
Were you excluded from the insurance policy? That's either a yes or a no.
Yes.
Then you shouldn't have been driving the car.
Yeah, I know.
Just a second. Then you shouldn't have been driving the car.
I took the car.
I don't want to hear some pat answer from you. Do you understand? That's why your mother's not here.
Well, it was
I didn't ask you a question. I didn't ask you. Do you understand? They don't listen to you when I'm speaking. When I ask you a question, you'll answer me. I don't want to hear some pat answer. I want to hear a lot of I'm sorries. I want to hear a lot of I'm sorries.
Why would I say I'm sorry if they didn't pay attention when they were crashing?
You weren't supposed to be behind the wheel of a car.
Well, I was paying attention.
You weren't supposed to be behind the wheel of a car.
But why they didn't pay attention?
I'm not speaking to you. I just told you why. Why should I say I'm sorry? Hey, be quiet. Why should I say I'm sorry if they weren't paying attention? Because you weren't supposed to be behind the wheel of a car. If you weren't behind the wheel of a car, whether they were paying attention or not would be irrelevant. You weren't supposed to be driving. She thinks you have a big mouth. You don't have a bigger mouth than me, madam. I guarantee you, the last person who drove yesterday that wasn't supposed to drive yesterday because they were drunk, killed six. Drunk. Nobody's listening to you. When I'm speaking, nobody's listening to you. Killed 6 people. Last person who drove that wasn't supposed to be behind the wheel of a car killed 6 people. You were not. Hey, drunk. I'm speaking. You were not supposed to be behind the wheel of a car. Don't you understand that?
I understand.
Are you stupid? You were not supposed to be behind the wheel of a car. You were an excluded driver, and you were an excluded driver for a reason.
Not only that, you're.
Just a second. Don't speak. Now I'm going to read and calm myself down. I don't like my blood pressure to get too high. I just don't like stupid.
Whitney and Sarah smirk. Judy consults a document.
Our investigation, which is after you notified the insurance company, determined that the driver of the insured's car, Jennifer Ramirez, was not covered by the policy. That's what you're telling me.
Correct.
I don't understand this. You were walking, correct?
Correct. Both.
What is this? Your driving privileges will be suspended on November 21st. What is that?
I think there was a misunderstanding that we were actually driving a vehicle. Yeah. And when I called the DMV and I explained that, no, we're actually pedestrians, then they said, oh, I'm sorry, disregard that.
Yeah.
Stupid.
And
do you have a letter from them indicating that this is wrong?
They just told me that we can disregard it, and they just corrected it. That's all they did.
And it was not because she was also unlicensed?
Just a second. I'm not there yet.
Okay.
I'm not there with big mouth. Okay, this happened on September 4th, 2020. What time of the day?
It was in the evening.
What time?
Was about 8 p.m.
It was, around 8 o'clock.
Light or dark outside?
Dark.
Is that a fair and accurate representation of the intersection where this happened?
It is, Your Honor.
Ms. Santiago, is that a fair and accurate representation of the intersection where this happened?
Yes.
So at the intersection where this happened, there were lines across the highway indicating pedestrian walkway.
Correct.
And there were 2 signs indicating pedestrian walkway.
There were 3 signs. One in the center median and 1 on each side.
On September 4th, Ms. Santiago, this requires a yes or a no answer from you. On September the 4th, 2020, did you have a valid driver's license?
Caption coming up.
What happened when she hit? Don't! Hey! Don't speak. Hey, listen, for someone who can't take and pass a driver's test 3 times, at least I would keep my mouth shut.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Lisa, Reza, and Jennifer.
Lisa Hildreth and Reza Mahasani claim 20-year-old Jennifer Santiago struck them in a crosswalk while she was driving without a license. Jennifer says they were not paying attention and walked into oncoming traffic.
Now, on September 4th, Ms. Santiago, this requires a yes or a no answer from you. On September the 4th, 2020, Did you have a valid driver's license?
I didn't, Your Honor.
I said it's either a yes or a no. Did you have a valid driver's license?
No.
Did you ever have a valid driver's license?
No.
Do you have a valid driver's license today?
No, Your Honor, because they...
That's a no. What's your name?
Vanessa.
What?
Giles.
Stand up.
Vanessa rises.
Did you come with her today?
Yes.
How did you get here?
I drove. My license.
Just a second. You drove?
Yes.
In whose car?
My car.
What kind of car is it?
Kia.
Did you ever drive with Miss Santiago?
Yes.
When? Did you ever drive in a car where she was the driver and you were the passenger?
Yes.
When?
Yeah. September 4th, 2020. 2 years ago.
Other than September 4th, 2020, did you ever drive with Miss Santiago where you were the passenger?
Yes.
When?
September 4th.
I said other than September 4th.
No.
Other than September 4th.
Other than that, no.
On September 4th at 7 p.m., 7 p.m., where were you?
We were at the beach. Carlsbad Beach.
Sure, you were at the beach. Who else was at the beach?
Santiago and another friend. He's a minor. He's 16.
There were 3 of you at the beach. Anybody else that you knew at the beach?
No.
How long had you been at the beach?
Like for an hour.
So you got there at 6 o'clock in the evening?
We got there at 7. We were going back home at 8.
So you got to the beach at 7. What did you do at the beach at 7 o'clock?
We were just sitting there, eating, relaxing, having a good time, as teenagers that we were.
Now, did Miss Santiago pick you up or did you meet at her house? Just think, take a breath. Did you meet at her house or did Miss Santiago pick you up?
She picked me up.
How far do you live from her?
2 minutes away.
And what about the 16-year-old minor?
3 minutes away.
Did she pick up the 16-year-old minor?
Yes.
How old was Miss Santiago in September of 2020?
18.
Are you a good friend of hers?
Yes, I am.
You knew she didn't have a driver's license?
Yes.
Did you know why she didn't have a driver's license?
She was still studying for a test.
Had she taken the test before?
Yes, she has.
She had taken the test before.
Yes.
Do you remember how many times?
Yes.
How many times did she take the test?
2 times.
And the 2 times she took the test, she failed it?
Yes, she did.
Okay. So now she's driving without a license because she's failed her driving test twice at the time of this. So she's studying to pass it maybe for the 3rd time, right?
Yes.
And now we have 2 years later, she still doesn't have a driver's license.
Yes.
Do you know why?
No.
Well, you're her good friend. Didn't you ask her? Well, it's 2 years later. Did you ever pass your driving test?
She hasn't yet.
Sit.
Vanessa sits.
Now tell me what happened at 8 o'clock on the 4th of September, 2020.
I have pictures if you like, and would it be okay to approach the screen to show you better?
No, it's not necessary. You were crossing the street.
Correct.
In a crosswalk, she hit you.
Correct. We were.
You
That's what
crossing
happened.
the street in a crosswalk, and she hit you.
Yeah. So we had come to the crosswalk sign on the left side of the photo. We pressed the button. It illuminated the flashing lights to indicate that it was okay to cross. We looked to the left. Those 2 cars were already parked. We proceeded to the middle and noticed that the car furthest, in the furthest lane from us, that car was already parked. So we proceeded, and we were hit.
What happened when she hit? Don't! Hey! Don't speak. Hey! Listen, for someone who can't take and pass a driver's test 3 times, at least I would keep my mouth shut until I look at you for an answer. Do you understand?
Yes.
And it was estimated by the officer that we...
No. She hit you in a crosswalk. That's a crosswalk. This young lady knew I'm not... Did you hear me? I'm not speaking to you.
Judy glares at Jennifer.
You don't understand this was a really bad day for this kind of case to come into court. You do understand that?
Yes.
Okay, good. And you know why this is a very bad day for your case to come into court?
No.
Then you don't read the newspapers. I suggest if you read the newspaper, maybe you would be able to pass your driving test. Because either you failed the written portion or you failed the driving portion, one or the other. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good. Now we understand each other. Now you're almost at I'm sorry. You're almost at I'm sorry. When the defendant's car struck you, where did you land?
I have photos to show.
I'd like to see it.
It kind of shows on the second photo there.
Lisa hands photos to Kevin, who brings them to Judy.
Oh, you hit her windshield. Who hit her windshield?
We
Is that
both
you?
did, Your Honor. And the hood.
That's not true. I only saw that her husband, that he hit the shield. It wasn't her.
What an idiot. Kevin, I would like you to show Miss Santiago that photograph and this one.
Kevin brings the photos to Jennifer, then shows them to her.
Can I see the police report, please?
Sure.
Lisa produces a document, then hands it to Kevin. He collects the photos from Jennifer, then brings them and the document to Judy.
I'd also like you to show her these. I just want her to take a look at them.
He brings the document to Jennifer.
To know what happens when you act irresponsibly and you do things that you're not supposed to do, like take a car and drive it when you have no license, when you failed your driving test twice.
Jennifer looks at the document. Caption coming up.
The yellow warning lights next to the crosswalk were flashing.
They were not.
Witness 1 observed plaintiff 1 driving northbound towards the crosswalk at a fast speed. She drove through. I'm speaking, not you.
I was not.
I'm speaking, not you.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Lisa, Reza, and Jennifer.
Lisa Hildreth and Reza Mahassani are accusing 20-year-old Jennifer Santiago of hitting them in a crosswalk while she was driving without a license.
Okay, your last name is?
Giles?
You spoke to the police that day.
Yes, I did.
I don't know what you're doing here as a witness. She stated she did not see what happened. That's what it says here.
Yes.
Now, just a second. That's what it says here. Uncross your arms. Now you can sit down. Gillis stated she did not see what happened. However, she identified Miss Santiago as the driver. And then there was a witness. Witness 1 stated she was riding as a passenger in a vehicle driving northbound on the 3100 block of Carlsbad Boulevard. The two plaintiffs were crossing the road in a marked crosswalk on the south side of the intersection of Carlsbad Boulevard and Oak Avenue. The two were crossing from the west side of the street to the east side of the street. The yellow warning lights next to the crosswalk were flashing.
They were not.
Witness 1 observed plaintiff 1 driving northbound towards the crosswalk at a fast speed. She drove through. I'm speaking, not you.
I was not.
I'm speaking, not you. I'm reading from a statement in the police report from a witness who stopped when this accident happened that you don't know. Neither do you. Okay, so now we have a witness who neither one of you know, who said the yellow lights were flashing. Even if they weren't, there's a crosswalk and there are signs that said pedestrian. But this witness says the lights were flashing. Then the officer who did a blood test there for alcohol states as follows. During the investigation, P1, that would be you, displayed objective symptoms of intoxication. I noticed her eyes were slightly red and watery. Her speech was very quiet. I determined P1 was under the influence of cannabis.
That's not true, Your Honor.
Just a second. Do you have any supplementary police reports?
The only other thing that I have from the officer is an email that he...
No. Okay. An email to whom?
An email from the police officer to us.
I'd like to see it.
Sure.
Lisa produces a document, then hands it to Kevin. He brings it to Judy.
Thank you.
She dons her glasses, then reviews the document.
Okay, so what you said to the police officer was, and the police officer responded to you, that the report came back negative.
Correct.
And he said, I'm not changing it. Therefore, it's not a criminal matter. You have to sue her civilly. Correct. Because clearly the accident was her fault.
Correct.
Were you taken to the hospital that day?
We both were.
And you were taken to jail?
Yeah.
When was the last time you took a driving test? Month and year.
I haven't taken no driving test.
When was the last time you took a driving test, madam? You failed twice. So I want to know when the last time was that you took a driving test.
I can't remember. It was a long time ago.
Did you take a driving test in the year 2021?
Yeah, I did.
Did you pass that driving test?
No.
Was that your third or fourth driving test?
That was the second.
No, you took two, according to your friend, before 2020.
I know.
So I asked you, in 2021, did you take it? You said yes, you didn't pass it. And I asked you, was that the third or the fourth test that you had?
That was my second.
No. I don't know how much more that a court system can do, but to say to people who don't have driver's licenses, especially in your case where you tried to get a license but failed to pass on at least 2 occasions before this incident, which means that you were a risk to be on the road because you couldn't pass a driving test twice before this incident. Now, you want to tell me whether you, and this requires a short answer, not one of your long ones. Did you have your mother's permission to take the car that day to pick her up and go to the beach?
No.
Have you ever had your mother's permission to take the car and go anywhere?
No.
So in effect, if you had no license and you didn't ask for permission, then you stole the car.
No.
What do you mean no? You
just
didn't have permission of the owner to take the car. You weren't a licensed driver. Therefore, there was no insurance. Well, let's go back. Did you ever ask your mother to use the car?
No, not at all.
And what happened after you had this accident in your mother's car and after you got out of jail? What happened between you and your mother?
Well, she was sad because I was in jail, and well, she was also mad because, like, why would I take the car without her permission?
Why did you take the car without her permission?
Well, I honestly didn't thought that this would happen.
Nobody thinks that an accident is going to happen. I don't think you intentionally hit these 2 people.
No.
I don't think you intentionally hit these 2 people. Are you ready to say I'm very sorry yet?
Yeah, I told them we have talked before, I told them that I was sorry, and I'm telling them again that I'm sorry.
Good. That's better. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $10,000. We're finished.
This court is adjourned.
Outside the courtroom, Reza and Lisa, then Jennifer.
Well, I'm really pleased with the judge's decision.
I didn't see anything until the guy hit the windshield.
We have a young child, so we understand that the driver was young and mistakes happen.
I started screaming and I was scared.
For about 3 hours in the hospital, I didn't know if she was going to live or die, basically.
I was so scared, like I just stayed there. I was in shock.
It's been rough.
I told them that I was sorry that the accident happened.
I had like internal bleeding in my arm. I have loss of range of motion in my hand.
Well, I didn't even went to see them because I was so scared.
It was the unluckiest day and the luckiest day of our life. So we're here and we're grateful for that.
I was super scared. Like, I was like, I killed them. Like, I was crying in jail.
We both have to deal with physical injuries, but like Lisa said, it was the unluckiest and luckiest moment of our life, so we're grateful that we're here.
Sarah and Judy.
Being pretty close to 18 myself.
An unpaid car loan given to Elena after her release from prison.
Court come to order. All rise.
Judge Judy.
Have a seat, everyone.
Kevin approaches the bench.
Hello, Judge. Case 2166, Hammond versus Smith.
Thank you.
Judy turns to Stewart.
Mr. Salmon, the long and short of this case is you met the defendant on some sort of a website. She was in prison at the time. You began to see her. She got out of prison. You gave her a certain amount of money that you consider gifts to her, but then she asked you if she could borrow money to buy a car. You gave her $2,600 with the expectation of being repaid, and this is your lawsuit, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And your answer to him said, well, it was never really anticipated that I would give him back his money. Only I said I would give him back if I got my stimulus money. I didn't get my stimulus money, so I'm not paying him back. That's what the case is about. Simple. So let me get a couple of piece of information from you. From when to when were you in prison?
January of 2019 until June of 2022.
For what?
Several things. I did any thefts and stolen firearms.
And?
That was it.
Was there one indictment or more than one indictment?
One federal indictment and 23 counts for state.
Which state?
Washington.
Was it the first time you were in prison?
Yes.
Did anybody else go into prison as a result of the same case?
No.
At what point during your stay in prison did you begin to communicate with Mr. Salmond?
Somebody had put me on a prison pen pal website, which I wasn't aware of until I got a message from him. I took myself off the site. That site's usually for people to get things from people, money in their books, packages. So we started talking, but...
When? Give me a month and year.
It was in April of 2019.
So right away?
Yeah, about a few months after.
Right away. And you were in jail, so you clearly stayed in touch with him.
Yeah.
How often did you stay in touch with him?
We corresponded maybe initially once every couple of months.
And then?
And then I was taken from prison to Spokane in November of 2020 for a federal indictment. I was gone 6 months.
To serve time on a federal indictment?
Not to serve time, but to be indicted and sentenced.
And were you?
I was.
To what?
6 months.
In the same prison?
No.
Different prison?
Yeah, I was supposed to go after my state to go to my federal time.
Now, the government started to send out these stimulus checks, which, in my mind, and maybe I'm wrong, were given to people who were suffering through the pandemic because they couldn't work, they couldn't feed themselves, they needed money to exist. And that's why the money was given out. I mean, I recall the letter that came with the stimulus money. It seemed to me, Ms. Smith, so I'm going to ask you, because I read your answer, which I found interesting. And you said that while you were in prison and communicating with him, several of your stimulus checks came. Where did they come?
They were going to be sent to his house.
Why were they going to be sent to his house?
Because inmates were having their stimulus checks sent to the facility. The facility takes 75% of it.
Now, so I knew this would get more interesting, and I have to sort of put it in my timeline. So you had to apply for the stimulus checks.
Correct.
And all the inmates filled out a form for the stimulus checks. The other inmates filled out forms which said that they wanted the stimulus checks, gave them their social security number and an address.
Correct.
And you put his address on your stimulus check.
Actually, he filed it for me.
Whoever, he put his address. Was it at your direction that he filled it out for you? Or did he just do it himself? I mean, I'm up to a casual...
Yeah, he filed online for me.
Because you asked him to?
Yes.
And because he used his address, while the government was taking 75% of those stimulus checks and taking it for your upkeep in prison, because there's a certain amount of upkeep. You have meals, you have doctor services, whatever you have. They took 75, leaving you 25%, I suppose, to put on your account in the canteen or to do whatever you want. Is that close?
Yes.
How many checks did you see?
None.
Because according to you, they went to his house, and since he couldn't find you, because you had been transferred to one prison or another, what did you do with the checks and how many did you get?
I believe I got 2 checks, and then they just all expired. You know, I never deposited them or anything.
Do you have them?
No, ma'am.
Where are they?
One of them I sent back.
And where's the other one?
Let's throw it away.
When did they send it, in 2020 or 2021?
I believe it's 21.
Your Honor, it was 2020.
Okay. But you never cashed any of them?
No, ma'am.
Good thing. Very good thing. No rhyme or reason to giving out stimulus money to people who are already being taken care of by the state, but the federal government, I know, was printing money like it was Mardi Gras, and sending money to prisoners is dubious thing. Sarah, you looked up some figures for me on, because I was curious about this case. How much money Kevin and I spent on sending money to prisoners, especially those who were in long-term, like lifers or whatever. She wasn't, but she got stimulus checks, 2 of them sent to him.
So there were over 1.1 million COVID stimulus checks, totaling over 1.3 billion sent out to incarcerated people across the United States throughout COVID. And out of those numbers, according to the letter from the IRS, some 163,000 recipients were serving life sentences who received the stimulus checks. But that's throughout the U.S., not just in Washington.
Not just the state of Washington. I got it. Okay.
Caption, coming up.
I don't know one guy that cold turkey goes on a prison website to get a pen pal. But the people that do that are sort of the same people that have themselves shot out of a cannon. A little bit crazy. A little bit.
Elena grins. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Stewart and Elena.
Stuart Selmond claims his former friend, Elena Smith, owes for a car loan he gave her after she was released from prison.
Then, Miss Smith, there comes a time when you get out of jail.
Correct.
During the time that you were in jail, once you reconnected with him, did he send you any money?
That's when he started. He never had before. I never asked, but
when you reconnected?
Yes, because I had lost my job being gone.
So you
for
got
court.
out?
No, I had a job in the prison.
Okay.
But I was gone for 6 months for court, so when I got back, I lost that job. So that was the first time I asked him for help. But again, my stimulus checks were supposed to be at his house, so
but they were
I didn't know that yet.
Okay.
So.
Well, you asked him to fill out the form. Why did you agree to fill out the form with your address on the stimulus checks?
She said she had no one else to send them to.
Okay. Mr. Salomon, do you work?
Yes, ma'am.
Who do you work for?
I work at the hospital in Tyler.
What do you do?
I'm a nurse.
Now, Mr. Salmon, why wouldn't you ask Ms. Smith, hey, why do you want them at my house? I can't cash them. Why not just send them to the prison? Did she tell you?
No, ma'am.
Did you ask her?
No, ma'am.
All right, so he's not asking for any of that money back. He's asking for the $2,600 for the car that you wanted when you came out of prison. When you came out of prison, you lived independently.
I was in transitional housing.
Mm-hmm. And tell me how it came about that you asked him for money for a car.
He came and picked me up from prison, bought me a phone.
Okay, he picked you up. That was nice.
Yeah.
Anybody else pick you up?
No.
Who was that?
This is my best friend of 18 years.
Okay, did she pick you up?
No.
So he picked you up?
Yeah.
Okay, and what else did he do? He bought you a phone.
He bought me a phone.
He's not asking for that back. He bought you a phone as a gift, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Correct.
Yes, he bought you a phone so that you would be connected to the world.
Correct.
What's next?
Then he started cash apping me money
He
that
did.
I didn't ask for.
How much?
I have it over right here. The first one was June 13th for $50, June 14th for $50. This is prior to the car money.
So you said you needed some cash and
I never said I needed it. He just was doing it.
Okay, and he's not asking for any of that money back.
Right.
Now tell me about the car.
So I got a job offer, but I didn't have a vehicle. So he had been helping me out for a while.
Okay, so he's helping you.
So I asked him for money to get a car. This first stimulus checks that he sent back, I wasn't getting, but the third one, I had to file a tax return in order to get that, which was only $1,400.
Just a second. I don't care about your stimulus money. I don't want to buy you a car.
To pay him back.
I don't want to buy you a car.
But he bought me a car.
No.
My stimulus money I was supposed to give him for only $1,400.
No. You have to understand something. You have no proof, and I actually believe him when I say he didn't cash your stimulus checks.
Yeah,
he returned them. You don't even think that he cashed them because that would have been a federal offense and he would have gone to jail.
I didn't.
And you didn't want to go to jail, right?
No, ma'am.
And truth of the matter is, stimulus money is, in my view, not for anything other than try to keeping everything in balance while there was COVID. Now, you got out of jail. Owning a car is sort of a luxury. You have to have a car, you have to have insurance, you have to be able to keep it up. That's not what stimulus money was for. So let's go back. He didn't collect any of your money. He was nice enough to put in $50 here, $60 there, gave you a phone so you would be connected. Now you tell him that you need money for a car. On what date do you tell him you need money for a car?
On June 15th.
And he gave you $2,600.
Correct.
And that was in June of 2022.
Correct.
Now, I'd like to see the emails following up when he's asking you for repayment of that $2,600. Do you have any?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to take a look at it.
Stewart produces documents, then hands them to Kevin. He brings them to Judy, who reviews them.
Where is the car now?
It was totaled. It was a recent car accident.
When?
December 2nd.
Who was driving it?
I was driving it.
Did you have insurance on it?
Yes.
Did you hit another car and the other car hit you?
The other car pulled out in front of me and I hit them. They were at fault.
The insurance payout on the claim? To whom?
To myself.
How much?
Just for the damage of the car, it was $3,200.
So what did you do with the money?
I bought a new vehicle.
What kind did you get?
2008 Pontiac G6.
How much did you pay for it?
I paid $2,700.
So if you gave him back his $2,600, you still would have had a down payment enough for that car.
I paid cash on this vehicle.
I know what you did, but if you had done the right thing, you would have paid him back his $2,600, and you would have had a down payment, and you would have been paying off the car.
So there was no agreement for me to pay the $2,600. It was to pay him back with my stimulus of only $1,400.
Well, I've read this here, and you know what I get out of these text messages back and forth? Something that people who are takers do all the time. They justify taking because you say, you're just so blank petty. You make more than enough, and I'm making $500 a week. I have real life problems. So you're saying that the money isn't really that important to you, and it's that important to me, and I have a child to take care of, and you don't. You make $500. You live alone, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, you live alone. You were a good sucker for a while, and now I'm not giving you back the money. I'm cutting you off. Did you change? Yes.
He continued to cash app her after the $2,600.
Up here.
Elena's friend, Sharona.
After June 15th, when he sent her the $2,600, he sends her, unsolicited, another $700 dating all the way to August 11th.
Well, that's terrific. Isn't he a nice person? She's been your best friend for 17 years.
18, yes, ma'am.
18 years. Do you work?
I do.
What kind of work do you do?
I work in healthcare.
You make a living?
I do.
You have a car?
I do.
You have a home?
I do.
Right. Why didn't you give her money?
I was in the middle of a divorce, and we were selling our home.
So the answer is you had other things. You work, that's 2 sources of income of her best friend for 18 years. And she could have come to you. And
she did, and I gave her money.
Okay, well, she seems to be, you know, you can sit down. She seems to be a taker. And if he gave her more money, even after this $2,600, he's not asking for that money back.
He also told me to keep the stimulus check to pay the car.
Oh, I'd like to see it. Not that it's important.
No, it is.
Because
he told me to keep it.
Just a second, because I'm not. You didn't get another stimulus check.
No, I didn't get the stimulus.
No, you didn't get another.
That was the only stipulation to paying him back was with that.
No. No.
Yes.
Caption, coming up.
He was tracking my iPhone. He was constantly blowing up my phone. He became a weirdo. He sent me an email.
Madam, I have to tell you something. It takes a weirdo to know a weirdo.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Stewart and Elena.
Stuart Zelman has accused his former friend, Elena Smith, of refusing to pay back a car loan. Elena claims the car was a gift after she was released from prison.
He was being a really nice guy. I sent you money so you and your daughter can do some stuff, like you can get some of your precious Papa John's. Seems like a nice guy.
She never asked for any of it. She even had him blocked during that.
She spent it.
Yeah.
Just a second. She spent it. Do you know, there are times when I remember both myself and other family members erroneously received money. I don't know if it ever happened to you. Okay. Erroneously, a deposit comes into your checking account. You don't know where it comes from. Well, somebody put it in there mistakenly, right?
This wasn't mistaken.
Just a second. Same theory, madam. Somebody put it in there mistakenly. Well, you can either report it to the bank and say, I don't want any more of this money. It feels uncomfortable to me. Or you can say, listen, I'm going to hold this in my account and see if they come after it, see how long it takes them to find it, right? Or you can do the honest thing. You pick up the phone and you call and say, this money doesn't belong to me and I'm not going to spend it. Similarly, even though the money was unsolicited, your friend was a user. Your friend was a user. She started out by saying, people use these online websites for prisoners because they want stuff. Is that what she said in the beginning?
I also said I took myself off of it. I didn't put myself on it.
Just a second. Whether you did or did not, I don't know, but you certainly benefited from it.
How?
You took his money. Somebody that you met, you took, according to now you, who you said $50 twice is what he sent. Now your friend says, oh, no.
This is after.
Oh, no. I know exactly what you said, madam. I know exactly what you said. You said, no, that was after the $2,600. But for somebody who says, I wouldn't want to be in that site because other people were using that site to get people to give them things, and I took myself off that site, well, there's no further reason for you To stay on the site, you had your sucker.
No.
No. This is
Hold on.
after she came out of jail.
It took 3 years. 3 years for me to ask him for anything. So if I was going to use him, it would have been the entire time. I stopped having communication with him because he was tracking my iPhone. He was constantly blowing up my phone. He wanted to have me do inappropriate sexual things to him. He became a weirdo. He sent me an email.
Madam, I have to tell you something. It takes one to know one. It takes a weirdo to know a weirdo.
No.
If you're in prison,
no.
To me,
No.
maybe not to
with
you.
The things that he asked.
Sit. If you're in prison, a woman in prison, you said the women in prison go on this line so that people, weirdos. I mean, I have a very large family, really large extended family. I don't know one guy that cold turkey goes on a prison website to get a pen pal. I don't know. I'm sure that there are people that do that, but the people that do that are sort of the same people in my mind, and I know it's an old mind, are the same sort of people that have themselves shot out of a cannon or will jump off a 9th-story building with a parachute and see if it works. A little bit crazy. A little bit. You know, right? Even when you marry somebody who's doing a life term in prison, I think it's sort of an interesting story. I wouldn't recommend it for my granddaughter. So the fact that you did a substantial stint in prison, leaving a small daughter who was taken care of by whom?
Her father.
By her father. Still taken care of by her father?
Yeah.
So you have a place in your life that's sad, that she's not with you, but it gives you the ability to create a life for yourself because you're free. So you can create a life for yourself. This man says, I was a very nice man. I made you more comfortable while you were in jail, a little more comfortable, and when you got out of jail, I also sent you money. Now, if you're telling me, and your friend is suggesting that he wanted some sort of a quirky quid pro quo, that's a reason to cut him off. It's not a reason not to pay him back. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,600. We're finished.
This court is adjourned.
Stewart.
But we were just friends. You know, she just said a lot of things that weren't true. Like, I never asked anything from her, and I mean...
I thought he was lonely. He goes on vacations by himself. He has no friends.
I didn't keep cashing her after I was blocked and stuff, so...
Thought he wanted a friend, and he was trying to buy my friendship, obviously.
No reason, she's just making stuff up, no. Character assassination.
Right after my release from prison.
Be careful you loan money to.
Don't get a pen pal.
No more prison pen pals.
So this is something they don't teach in law school.
I'm ready.
If something doesn't make sense to an otherwise sensible person, you have to know there's a gimmick attached to it. You know, if something walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck.
Yep.
Now, it may be a mongoose, but if you'd be pretty safe in saying, you know, walks like a duck, talks like a duck. So it's not a duck, it's a mongoose. But if you come from a relatively simple background and you know a lot of people, and you don't know anybody who's pen pals with a prisoner. There are a lot of people, because there are lonely people. People in prison are lonely, and there are sometimes lonely women who start to communicate, even just from a sympathetic Good Samaritan kind of coming from that direction. People should know that if a stranger is giving you money, under those circumstances, there's got to be a catch there someplace.
I mean, I know my brain stems from your brain, so maybe we're just on the same track here, but I would never accept money from someone who's seemingly just giving it to me because. There's always a string, there's always an attachment, even from people that you know. But definitely with strangers, there's strings. Otherwise, why are they giving you the money in the first place?
Right.
I think she knew what she was doing, and even if she didn't sign herself up, even if we take her at her word on that, she knew what the people on that site were about.
Oh, well, she was very clear. Yep. She knew that people in prison were going to be entitled to get stimulus checks, but they were to be directed to the prison because the prison would take out 75% of those checks, which would cover your care.
For a phone and gas money.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin approaches the bench.
Case 2087, Self versus Stroger.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Judy turns to David.
Your last name is Self?
That's correct.
There are two parts to your claim. I'm going to get and take your hands out of your pockets.
Sorry about that.
I'm going to get and dismiss one of them and get to the one that is important. You and the defendant were in a dating sort of relationship. That dating relationship sort of continued for a while. At some point, you had an argument and she left you. She stranded you. That was in July of 2022. You say you had an argument, she drove off and she left you stranded. You had to get a hotel for the night. You had to pay a friend for gas money. Blah, 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 blah.
Correct.
Forget that. That's what happens when you have a fight with your girlfriend.
Okay.
Have a fight with your girlfriend. How old are you?
I'm almost 40.
Well, for someone almost 40, they know how to get home.
Correct.
Okay, good. So let's get to what your lawsuit is. It's really about a phone that you say the defendant is responsible for losing or taking.
Taking. I have video to
taking. And the defendant in some way acknowledges that she disposed of your phone, and she says she had very good cause to dispose of your phone. She's going to tell me why. So I'm going to get some dates from you, Mr. Self, and I'm going to, at the same time, explore what I see is her answer and her counterclaim.
Okay.
Now, after the two of you had broken up, Miss Stroger was at a bar, and she was at a bar on what date?
I would say that would be the 16th. It was actually on the 19th.
August 2nd.
Was it
8-2. You see how...
She knows better about these dates than I do.
Well, but it's your case.
I understand that.
So let's say she's right, that it happened on August 2nd.
Okay.
And at that time, the two of you were no longer dating or a couple.
Yes.
And you were going to a bar. And when you got there, was the defendant there?
Not that I was aware of at the particular time.
You didn't see her?
I didn't see her, no.
What time did you get to the bar?
I'd say about 4 or 5.
Anybody else at the bar?
There's quite a bit of people there, to be honest.
How many people?
I'd say about 30.
Anybody you knew?
Quite a bit of people.
Of the 30 people there, how many people did you know?
I'd say at least 10.
But you indicate when you got there, you did not see the defendant.
No, I wasn't paying attention to her at the particular time.
Well, you say that there were 30 people in the bar,
Correct.
10 of whom you knew, so you knew some people, and this was a former girlfriend of yours with whom you had been close association and intimate, right?
Correct.
And you didn't see her.
Well, they have a back patio, and then they also have the indoors and everything like that. And then they have a front area, too, as well, so.
Tell me, Mr. Self, when did you, in fact, see her?
It's when she was doing the bowling. And that was a little bit later on when I was playing pool.
About what time was that?
I don't know, probably like 7 or 8.
So you had been in the bar for between 3 and 4 hours?
Yes.
Okay, so now you're at the bar for 3 or 4 hours. And are your friends there, these 10 people that you knew?
Yes.
Now, I'm going to go back a little bit to the breakup that you two had.
Gotcha.
Was it a mutual breakup?
So what ended up happening and everything, that we had a disagreement on the 23rd in Norco, and she left me stranded there, so I had to get another friend give me a ride back to my residence.
I can't understand a word you're saying because you're speaking too fast.
On the 23rd,
Better.
she left me at a barbecue and had a friend give me a ride back to Riverside, California.
A friend who was at the barbecue?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so you were at a barbecue with her.
That's correct.
And that was how far away from where you were living in Riverside?
I'd say about 20 minutes away.
And your friend was at the barbecue, and after you had an argument with her, your friend took you home?
Prior?
No, not prior. Is that what you just said to me?
In Norco, California, is when she left me at a barbecue. And then at the bar, or when we were down in Huntington Beach on the 30th, she left me. I have video that shows all that.
All right. I asked you whether the breakup was acrimonious. So one time she left you at a barbecue where you knew somebody who drove you home.
Correct.
And you didn't stay in a motel, you didn't do anything else.
didn't.
Okay, good. And then she did it again.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying to me?
Yes.
And the second time was when?
It was on the 30th.
Okay. And that is the time when you say you had to spend some time over. So after she left you the second time,
Yes.
is that when you no longer communicated with her?
That's correct.
Did you say, why did you leave me? How dare you leave me? You didn't have any communication by text or phone or anything else, is what I'm asking you.
So her cousin's supposed to play in a band. We showed up late. She was upset and distraught about showing up late.
Who showed up late?
We did, because I was with her.
I just need a date of that.
On the 30th.
I have on the 30th. So she was upset that you showed up late, and?
We showed up late to her cousin's thing. They're supposed to be at 2 o'clock. We got there about 2:05. She's upset about that. When we were driving down the road, because we're trying to find parking, which everybody was around and everything, she was getting upset and getting angry with another driver, to the point where I had to pull the e-brake to stop the vehicle as I thought she was going to run into it.
And then what
I tried
happened?
to de-escalate the situation as much as possible. Mind you, there's 2 minors there in the back.
I would just like to know, was the breakup, I'm trying to figure out, was the breakup acrimonious or mutual on the 30th? Who broke up with whom?
She left me.
She left you there.
That's correct.
On the 30th. After she left you there on the 30th, did you have any communication with her?
I was done with it.
Just a second. So after the 30th, you didn't see her or communicate with her until you saw her on August 2nd, is what you're saying?
Yes. I didn't see her again.
Didn't see her again or communicate with her from the 30th of July until August 2nd, a few days later.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
I believe so. I can look at my records right now to see, but I don't believe I gave her a call or anything like that.
Okay. And when you saw her at the bar that you were in, you saw her later between 6 and 7. She was bowling.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an answer. The answer is yes.
Yes.
She was bowling. You were playing pool.
Correct.
And what this is about is your phone, which you're missing. So tell me about the phone, sir.
So I have a Note 10 Plus that was behind the bar at the time. Instead of going to my vehicle, which I typically charge it from that
Just a second. So you were charging your phone at the bar.
Correct.
When had you put the phone in to charge it?
Later on that evening, around 10, maybe 11, I'm guessing.
10 or 11?
I'm guessing.
Just a second. 10 or 11. So.
Because there's a few times I actually go in there, I charge it, then I use it for a little bit.
Well, but you saw it the last time.
I apologize for that.
Last time you saw it, you plugged it in. It was like 10 or 11. So now you've been in the bar from 4 to 10 or 11.
Yes.
And she was there, at least as far as you know, from about 7 to 10 or 11.
Yes.
Keep going.
So I charge it, and...
what were you doing with the phone all evening?
Talking, texting. Texting and stuff like that.
Texting?
Communicating, yes.
To whom?
Friends.
Friends.
What's going on, social media, all the good stuff.
Okay, go ahead.
So anyways, I was playing pool. I went outside, had a cigarette, and then that's when she, at 12:33 is when she ended up with her girlfriend looking around and all this other stuff. Like I stated before, I have the video that shows that on the camera. Would you like to see it? So
far, I'm not understanding you. So why don't you explain it to me, and then you can show it to me. So far, it's all a jumble. 12:30 at night.
12:33 is when she stole the phone.
Is when she stole the phone?
That's correct.
And you bought the phone when, sir?
About 2 years ago.
And how much did you pay for it?
I don't know, I think like $800, $700.
Well, this is your case. How am I supposed to figure out? You're suing for a phone that she took. How am I supposed to figure out how much she owes you for the phone if she took it?
I don't know how much I paid for it, but I know it retails for about $1,200.
Show me.
So I got the case cover.
What kind of phone was it?
The Note 10 Plus.
The Samsung Galaxy Note 10 Plus is typically $395 to $512.
At this point in time, yes.
Well, that's what it would cost you to replace it.
Okay.
Now, you do not deny that you put your hands on his phone in a manner in which you intended to have it removed from his custody, which means, according to you, you took the phone out of the charger and threw it in the trash or in trash someplace. So far, Mr. Self, the defendant acknowledges that she took the phone and trashed it.
All right.
And I want you to make sure that you answer my questions carefully. While you were at the bar between 7 and 12, did you ever show anyone at the bar a photograph of the defendant?
No, I did not.
Now I'll hear you.
So I got to the bar around 8:30 because I played darts that night. I did not see the plaintiff. I was playing bowling. There was an arcade game. And when he came in, he started showing videos of me.
That's incorrect.
Don't speak.
Caption, coming up.
There is a protective order in place, and if you want to vacate that protective order because you question service, you better do so. In the meantime, I suggest you stay very, very far away from her.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, David and Joangela.
David Self claims his ex-girlfriend, Joangela Stroger, owes for a phone and gas money. Joangela is countersuing for harassment.
Now, did you see him showing videos of you to anyone at the bar?
I saw him showing videos.
But didn't see what they were?
No.
I would never do such a thing. Apologize.
Could you stand up, please? Absolutely.
A blonde woman rises.
Do you know Mr. Self?
I do.
Tell me your name.
Amy?
Amy what?
Clack?
Were you at the bar on the 2nd of August?
I was.
And you know the defendant?
Yes, she's a friend of mine.
And what about Mr. Self? How do you know him?
As her ex-boyfriend?
Be careful of what you answer me. Did you see what Mr. Self was showing on his phone?
I did not see what he was showing on his phone. I saw him showing the phone, and I had friends who came up to me to see if I had seen it.
You can't tell me what your friends told you.
Understand.
You can sit down. Now, Ms. Stroger, your answer, and of course your counterclaim, involved the fact that Mr. Self was showing intimate pictures of you that he had maintained on his phone. So far, we don't have a witness to that. So what I want you to tell me is whether or not you personally had a conversation with Mr. Self about those videos on that night on August 2nd.
I asked him not to show video of me around the bar that night.
You did have a conversation with him?
Yeah, because he approached me.
Put your hand down. I want you to tell me about the conversation.
He approached me basically...
I don't want to hear basically.
He approached me
what time?
saying hi about 9:30 that night. Approached me saying hi. I told him I didn't want anything to do with him, that I had seen him showing videos, and that I was told that it was sexual videos of myself.
And what did he say?
He said he can do what he wants with his phone, and walked away.
Do you recall that conversation, Mr. Self?
There was no conversation that took place. The only video...
No. Slowly. There was no conversation, that
took place about anything like that. What video I did have was her being irate over there in Huntington Beach. So if you'd like to see that too as well.
No, I'd like to see the videos that she says that you have of her on your phone.
I don't have any videos of her like that on my phone.
Did you delete them?
I don't have...
Oh, he has a new phone. Got it. He has... just on them. He has a new phone. Well...
I did have a letter stating that he did get the backup, and he's got all the videos again.
Oh, I'd like to see that.
I do have a backup. Once I...
Just a second.
Okay.
He sent this to my boss at 1:30 in the morning. 2:43, sorry.
Judy reviews a document.
Mr. Self, this was sent by you to her boss on the 9th of August.
Okay.
Would you tell me the purpose of sending this letter to her boss?
She does very good at showing that she's a good person and all that other good stuff.
No, I don't think... Listen to me. I don't necessarily think anything.
Okay.
I think any woman that allows photographs to be taken of her, intimate photographs that she would not want put on the... I'm speaking.
Okay.
I'm speaking that she would not want posted on the front page of a local newspaper.
Correct.
I think that that's foolish.
Yeah.
I do. And I know a lot of people do it. I do a shout out every once in a while and say that that's stupid to do. And I think certainly if you were showing those videos or those photographs to anyone at the bar because you were annoyed with her or whatever, you thought it was fun, I think that that's
childish.
Sad, maybe worse. What I want to know is, after this all happened, why you sent this email to her boss.
Because the thing is this, that she is trying to pin me as a bad guy or something like that, is what she's really trying to do. She's trying to manipulate it to be on her side. She lies and manipulates all the time. And I've seen that because I was with her. I should know. Okay? The thing is this, I have the video of her over there in Huntington Beach being irate, unable to have a conversation.
I don't care if she's irate, sir. Right now, she has no proof that you were showing videos of her at the bar that evening.
Yes.
You don't have that because that's your counterclaim. And if you don't have that, then I have to dismiss your counterclaim.
But there's also harassment and stalking that he's been doing.
Okay. I have to dismiss that part of your counterclaim, which is for revenge porn. Okay. Now, you're going to tell me about the stalking, and first I'll take a look at a police report.
The police report, unfortunately...
Just a second. If you don't have it...
I have a restraining order, and the police...
Just a second. Do you have a restraining order that's in effect now?
Yes.
I'd like to take a look at it.
Also, Your Honor, too, I have also...
No, I'm not...
Okay.
I didn't ask you anything.
Joangela hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
Were you at a hearing, Mr. Self, on this protective order?
I never even got served papers at all for anything.
I have proof of service.
Was there a signature on it?
Well, Mr. Self, she has a restraining order that's, and the hearing date was August 25th, 2022. She appeared. You're supposed to stay away from her. I'm just telling you. And I'm telling you, considering the fact And I don't know whether you were released from prison recently. Are you still on parole?
I'm on parole right now, yes.
Okay. Well, if you're, I didn't ask you anything. Well, if you're on parole, Mr. Self, and you say you weren't served with this restraining order, I would strongly advise, sir, that you retain counsel and question service.
Yeah, I've contacted my probation officer. They're well aware of the situation.
Don't tell me what they're aware of. I'm telling you that there is a protective order in place.
Gotcha.
And if you want to vacate that protective order because you question service of that protective order, you better do so.
Okay.
In the meantime, I suggest you stay very, very far away from her.
He called me yesterday.
I called you yesterday?
Yes. Don't speak to her. Tell me what the conversation was yesterday.
I was on my way to work and I didn't know the phone number, so I answered it and he said, please just give me a minute, and I hung up.
Did you call her yesterday from that phone?
There is a phone.
Just a second. That would be a yes.
Yes.
Okay, and you know this situation is hostile.
Yes.
And you knew you were coming here today.
That's correct.
Would you tell me, please, why you called her yesterday?
I didn't mean to call her by any means. It's pocket dialed her.
Well, if it butt called her or pocket dialed her, sir, that means that you were able to transfer all the information that you had on your old phone into your new phone, because after the experience that you had at the bar, there would be no reason for you to have her number in your phone.
I know.
Unless you just transferred.
I got it right here.
Well, if you got it, listen to me. If you got it right here, then it wasn't a butt call. So you can either butt call when, am I wrong about that? You know, I'm not technically sophisticated, but I do know this. I can't think into my phone. Now, maybe there is a phone that you can think into. I'd say, well, I have her number right here. You can't say, am I missing something here?
You might only butt dial me because I'm in your favorites, but.
Caption coming up.
Why would you send this to her boss?
It shows that she lies and manipulates and all sort of stuff to get her way.
I'm at a point where I don't actually believe that you didn't show some photographs of her around that bar.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, David and Joangela.
David Self is accusing his ex-girlfriend, Joangela Stroger, of throwing away his phone. Joangela is countersuing, claiming David shared private photos of her.
Okay, so you called her. You want to tell me why you called her yesterday?
I accidentally called her.
What's her number doing in your phone?
Because I keep all the numbers and everything just in case I have to get a hold of somebody. Because you know how many times I've been with her and back and forth, back and forth, back and forth?
Yeah.
Tons of times. You know what I mean?
You know, so something, Mr. Self, I don't believe you, sir.
Okay.
I don't believe you, and I don't believe that there was ever any reason for you to contact her boss. I think she has an order of protection.
Okay.
I'd like to see proof of service. Do you have it?
Yes. Oh, it's not connected with that. I'm sorry. If not, I have a picture of the service in front of his house.
Yeah. Server's name. So it was personal service.
And I do have a video after the fact of what she's talking about, the individual coming to the house. So I recorded
I'm just reading the proof of service, sir. You said you weren't served. I'd like to
served.
see proof of service. If you had proof of service, you were served.
I wasn't served.
Okay.
Just because you took a picture in front of the house and everything doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Oh, yeah, it does.
Why is that? I wasn't even at the residence at the time.
They took a picture of me.
Yeah, I would suggest to you, Mr. Self,
Stay away.
I would suggest to you that hire a lawyer.
Okay.
If you think that the service was improper, I'm satisfied with it, and another judge was satisfied with it, and I still don't understand why you wrote to her boss. Why you wrote to her boss afterwards. Any other communications?
To my boss, yes.
May I see it, please?
Joangela hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
Well, this is also written on August 9th, sir. This is from you, and it's a very graphic email to her boss. You want to take a look at it?
I do indeed.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to show it to you.
Okay.
Joangela smirks.
Thank you.
Kevin brings the document to David, who examines it.
So this is really just stating the individual that they hired, that they...
Now, I'm just asking you whether you sent that to her boss.
That is my email address, and that looks
Yes,
like my
so
writing. That's correct. Or
That's
my-
just- the question is, did you send that to her boss?
Indeed.
Okay. May I have it, please? And that was after the events, a week after the events of the 2nd of August, right?
Okay, yes.
You want to tell me why you sent that to her boss?
Well,
I mean, it's not telling them that she's a thief. You have to be careful of her. It's talking about sexual things.
where is it saying sexual things in that?
Oh, very easy. You say she lies to her boss about cramps while we lay in bed.
She is literally taking off of work saying that she's, sick or...
So I'm asking you why. Why would you send this to her boss?
It shows that she lies and manipulates and all this other stuff to get her way. Okay. The fact of nature, I understand that. I've been to prison and all this other stuff. I could be the bad guy and all that great stuff. I understand that.
I'm not saying she's a good person.
Correct.
I'm not saying you're a bad person.
Correct.
She's got to pay for her phone.
Yes.
You got to pay for this. Because I'm at a point where I don't actually believe that you didn't show some photographs of her around that bar. I don't believe that you didn't show some photographs of her around that bar.
I would never do such a thing.
Just a second. Well, the same person who would never do such a thing wrote to her boss that you were present when she called her boss and said, I can't come to her because I have cramps, and she was laying in bed with you.
Correct.
Okay? And that same person wouldn't show a picture,
No.
Okay, good. On your counterclaim, I am awarding you $5,000 on your counterclaim. From that, I'm taking off the $500 because he had no right to trash his phone. There are alternatives. One of them is not trashing his phone. Therefore, ordering on the counterclaim a judgment for the defendant in the amount of $4,500. Plaintiff's case is dismissed. We're done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor.
This court is adjourned.
David, then Joangela.
She gets away with it again.
The judge is very fair. Unfortunately, he tried to make me look like the bad guy, but the judge can see right through him.
Did I show her videos? Yes, where she was being irate over there in Huntington Beach.
That he's showing sexual videos of me and him.
The nudes and all that stuff, no. Why would I do something like that?
I went black, and that's the only reason why I threw the phone in the trash in the first place, because I felt helpless.
She sold me on this great person and everything, but come to find out, you know what, it's not what it is.
I gotta just be more careful with their phone around.
Judy.
I guess, Sarah, it's because of my generation. But I've been saying for a very long time, even before the internet, because, I was, in fact, young at some point in my life, and they did have all kinds of cameras and Polaroid cameras back in the day. But never take a photograph of yourself or allow a photograph to be taken that you wouldn't like to see on the front page of the New York Times. And now with social media, I think that that's more true than ever. To me, why would you post anything or take a picture, allow a picture to be taken that might later embarrass you?
I agree to an extent, but I disagree with you that in this case, because the defendant mentioned that the plaintiff had taken some of this video and photo without her permission. And I think that now it can get a little bit blurry as to, well, I didn't approve my photo taken. Obviously, a sexually explicit photo getting sent to your boss is not the intended purpose of that photo. I think whoever sends that photo misdirecting the
for the cost of tools she wrongfully sold.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin approaches Judge Judy.
Hello, Judge. Case 2189, Strubs versus Wasinger.
Thank you.
Judy turns to Andrew.
Mr. Scruggs, you have brothers and sisters?
No, ma'am.
Were your father and your mother? Who predeceased whom?
My mother died when I was 17 years old, and my father died in 2019 after a long-time illness, and he had his tools at my property.
You and the defendant were married for 10 years.
Correct.
You separated in what year?
2016.
And when you left, she stayed in the house.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Sometime prior to 2016, according to you, you borrowed some tools of your father's.
That's correct. I actually
Is that correct?
That is correct.
And the tools that you borrowed from your father were left in the marital home 2016, 17, 18. Your father died in 2019. You were divorced in 2000.
We were divorced in 2019 was the final judgment.
And then things sort of got away from you. So now we're in 2023, and you want your father's tools back or money for them, according to you, $10,000 worth.
Yes, ma'am.
Ridiculous. Let's start out with ridiculous. Where were you in 2019?
2019 is when my father died, and shortly after he died, I was taking care of his affairs, and we still had an ongoing court case that consisted of our minor children at the time, and I was under advisement of my attorney.
Don't tell me what your attorney advised you. It's hearsay. You did nothing with regard to the tools. In what year did you borrow the tools from your father?
It was 2013. I brought the tools over to my storage shed, and...
Mr. Scruggs, you gotta let it go. You haven't had the tools in 7 years. You've been out of the house since 2016? 2016.
What, Your Honor?
And you've been, look at you, and you've been living. Who is this?
This is my current wife.
So, you got divorced, you remarried. When did you remarry?
I got remarried in 2018.
Well, so you found time to get married, right? Just a second. That's a yes or a no.
Yes,
you found time to get married.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have a big wedding?
No, ma'am.
You had a small wedding. Do you have any children?
Yes, ma'am.
With your current wife?
Yes, ma'am.
How many?
One child.
How old?
She's 5.
So you managed to have a baby. Well, I'm suggesting to you, sir, how many different jobs did you have since 2016?
I've had 2 different employers.
Since 2016, so you also looked for another job and found another job. So let's see. You got married, you had a child, you changed jobs, but all of a sudden in 2023, the tools are important. Now, how many children did you and the defendant have?
2 children.
How old are they?
I have a 14-year-old and an 8-year-old.
You pay child support?
No, ma'am.
How come?
Because one of the children lives with me full-time.
For how long?
She's lived with me full-time for approximately 3 years.
But when you and the defendant separated, she was living with her mother.
Only for a short amount of time.
How long?
Probably about a year. And I paid support during that time.
And the other child?
Is 45-55 split.
So that's why you don't pay child support?
Correct.
And do you work?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. And at some point, so what do you want to say and why?
Just that the reason we were not able to do anything about the tools was that she had an order of protection.
The tools are stupid.
Was that she had an order of protection against him.
The tools are stupid. Orders of protection don't disqualify you from coming to small claims court.
They said that it wasn't able to.
Oh, no, that's, what's a they? Oz? You were allowed to come for small claims court, file a petition and say, these tools belong to me. He didn't do it during the divorce. He didn't do it before your wedding. He didn't do it after your wedding. He didn't do it before your daughter was born. He didn't do it till after your daughter was born. She's now 5 years old. It's 10 years after the tools were moved from your father's house into the marital home. That would be a fair statement. 10 years. You said 2013. We're now in 2023.
Correct. And,
okay.
Your Honor, I do have here where my dad filed a police report where he was trying to recover the tools.
Well, unfortunately...
And the defendant here obviously lied to this officer here and told them that I didn't retrieve...
So what? I want you to forget $10,000, sir. It's not happening for you. Put a period. The only thing that I'm going to consider is she did, in fact, sell the tools. That she acknowledges. Now, she can't sell something that doesn't belong to her. And in what year did you sell the tools?
I sold the tools. Our divorce was signed in 2018. They had gotten married. He'd quit paying a mortgage, so I had to find a way to pay.
Just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
Can't you just tell me, in what year did you sell the tools?
It was on and off between August and October of 2018.
So you sold them piecemeal?
Yes, ma'am.
And you remember that, so you must have put an ad someplace.
I put an ad on Craigslist because I needed to pay the mortgage. And I didn't only sell his tools, I sold jewelry that was mine.
I get it, but you sold it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you have an inventory about... First of all, they weren't his tools, they were his father's tools. But I've asked him whether or not he was an only child. He is an only child, so he would stand to inherit these tools unless there was another child that he doesn't know about because his mother predeceased his father. So...
Your Honor, I do have an inventory from that my father
don't
did.
care. Understand this. I don't care.
Caption coming up.
How do you know it was $1,000 if you sold them over a 3 or 4 month period? And if the answer to that is I don't know, or I pulled out the number from my behind, then that's an answer. But not that I sold the tools to put food on the table for my children. That's not an answer.
And later today.
I do have a witness that I brought with me, my daughter, who actually did see.
You sure you want to do that? Are you sure you want to do that? Be very careful, Miss Vieira. Are you sure you want to put her there for me to question? Are you sure?
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Andrew and Lori.
Andrew Scruggs claims his ex-wife, Lori Watzinger, wrongfully sold his father's tools and kept the money.
You let it lapse too long. Your father died 4 years ago. You and the defendant are separated for 6 years. The tools were there for 10 years. Courts don't care. We use a whole bunch of things, statute of limitations, we use latches, we use all kinds of terms when people don't act quickly to assert their rights to something. Because we don't want to be bothered with what happened 10 years ago and 12 years ago with this kind of nonsense. We do it with certain things that are important. Crimes are important. So sometimes we let statute of limitations get blurry, but not this. But you sold the tools. You had no right to sell the tools, so he's entitled to the money that you got for selling the tools. Now, according to you, you sold all the tools for how much?
$1,000.
And how do you know it was $1,000? Because you say you sold it over a period of time.
Because I have the paperwork where I had submitted so many payments to the mortgage because I sold them just to pay the mortgage and to feed the kids.
Listen, I'm going to get out my violin, madam. I asked you a specific question.
Yes, ma'am.
My specific question is, how do you know it was $1,000 if you sold them over a 3 or 4 month period? And if the answer to that is I don't know, or I pulled out the number from my behind, then that's an answer. But not that I sold the tools to put food on the table for my children. That's not an answer. How do you know it was $1,000?
Because I had put that money into the bank. I paid the mortgage with it.
Your Honor, you're exactly right. The defendant here is a liar and a manipulator.
Just a second.
And she will tell you whatever she thinks that you want to hear.
Well, that's true, sir. And I don't believe she sold the tools for $1,000, but I don't know that.
Because
and you wait,
just a second.
Just a second.
I
What?
guarantee you.
Oh,
I guarantee she made $13,000, $14,000.
No, that's possible, sir. Prove it. Proof. Just a second. It's your burden of proof. You have to prove to me that she sold them for $13,000. And even then, you're late in bringing this suit. But you can't prove that.
Well, because she is a manipulator is why this ex parte order and
listen
all this,
to me, I don't care. You're not following me. Courts, not me personally, courts, I am the court. We don't care because what you did was wait too long to assert a claim. You waited too long. According to you, you had COVID and the pandemic came in between and, you know, having another child and getting married to somebody else. All those were reasons you had personal issues why you didn't assert your rights in a timely fashion. So we're not going back to try to recreate something that you can't recreate. And neither can she, actually, because you don't have to keep track of something that happened 3, 4 years ago.
Well, even the agreed...
We're done. You have to understand.
Well, even our agreed judgment that she signed, I've texted her not 3 months ago trying to retrieve items.
Just a second. You have a judgment of divorce that says in the judgment of divorce she is to return the tools to you.
No.
Okay.
The tools are nothing in that judgment.
There's nothing. Okay. You sold them for $1,000?
Yes, ma'am.
You can't sell somebody else's property. And that's all that he can prove is what you say you sold them for, and I'm not sure that that's what you sold them for, but he waited too long. And the only thing that I can establish at this point is that you sold somebody else's tools for $1,000. That's it. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. We're finished.
This court is adjourned.
The defendant, she obviously is a liar and manipulator, and she got a lot more than even the $10,000, and these were what I considered family heirlooms.
No, actually, no. I've got the documents for that.
Even after my father died, I looked at her and said, you know, we need to just fix this, and I came to her and said, you know...
Because he can't let me go.
If it's a matter of money, let me give you the money for the tools, and she still was selling the tools to, we think, her best friend.
Because they don't want me happy.
I'm sure glad that it's over, and hopefully we can coexist and take care of our son that we have together.
I'd like to be friends. I mean, it's for the children, anything to make the children happy.
Judy and Sarah.
You know what's more fascinating to me than anything else, and I have to when we leave today, I'm going to go back and look up the doctrine of latches.
It was a brief footnote, I think, in one of our case books.
Right, because we're talking 60 years ago when I went to law school. And I seem to remember you had both a statute of limitations, which was a formalized statute for certain causes of action, and you had to bring them within a certain period of time. That, I'm sure they taught you with law school. But I seem to remember, Sarah, there was a doctrine of laches which discusses why you're supposed to bring an action in a timely fashion.
More of a common sense argument as opposed to a
preservation of evidence, because people do away with it. And this is a perfect example.
I think they call it ripeness now, but same concept.
Maybe.
More of a way for judges like yourself to be able to use common sense in cases like this and say, there's no evidence that's going to be preserved 10 years later. You had all these opportunities. Common sense tells me, therefore, it's not ripe. And I think it's a good doctrine, because although there might not be a set statute for this particular cause of action, it doesn't mean that evidence just appears out of nowhere that you're going to be able to use.
That you don't preserve.
Exactly.
That you don't preserve it. And certainly, he made a whole lifetime for himself in 10 years. Divorced, remarried, had a child, had changed jobs, changed careers.
A lot can happen in 10 years.
Yeah, but what's not going to happen is you getting the tools back.
Yeah.
Case 2189, Hernandez versus Vieira. All parties, please step forward.
Sofia Hernandez is suing her dog sitter, Cherie Vieira, for vet bills after her dog was injured during Cherie's care.
Miss Hernandez, how old is your puppy?
She's 6 months, Your Honor.
And when she was 4 months old, you needed a home sitter for your dog. Or you needed a place to board her for a weekend, long weekend. You live on an Army base.
A naval base.
Naval base. Does the defendant live on the base as well?
Yes, Your Honor.
And she approached you or whatever and said that she was available for sitting. Is that what you do to make some extra money?
Yes, Your Honor.
And on the 22nd of December of last year, which is when this incident occurred, you dropped the dog off at the defendant's home.
December 16th.
It was the 16th?
Yes.
And when you dropped the puppy off at the defendant's home, she was in perfectly fine shape.
Yes.
She looked very sweet.
Thank you.
So what happened when she dropped the puppy off at your house?
Caption, coming up.
I want you to tell me something that I'm going to believe, that you and your mother were in the room with your 10-year-old sister, and you saw what happened with the dog. Yeah. Just a second. I want you to make sure that that's what you're telling me.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Sofia and Cherie.
Sofia Hernandez claims her dog sitter, Cherie Vieira, is responsible for vet bills after her dog Dolce was injured during Cherie's care.
Because Ms. Hernandez has an outstanding vet bill for surgery on the dog's leg, which was broken, while in your care.
Yes, Your Honor.
So why don't you tell me how that happened?
Miss Hernandez brought Dolce to our house. We took her in, and we had also another dog.
I want you to tell me, you. When you say you took her in, did you or somebody else?
It's a family effort. My children also help take care of the dogs. I started watching dogs because my youngest child was deathly afraid of dogs. She was bit by a dog at the age of 2. So we started this so she could learn how to take care of dogs properly, know their signs and things like that. And we took Dolce into my daughter's room.
Which daughter?
Into my youngest daughter's room.
Is that you?
I'm the oldest.
You're the oldest. And how old is your youngest daughter?
She's 10.
Okay, so once you took her into your daughter's room, she was alone with the puppy?
No, all 3 of us were in the room. What we like to do is
No, I don't want you to tell me what you like to do. Okay. I want you to be consistent with what you put in your answer. You were all in your daughter's room?
Yes.
Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, ma'am.
Just 1 second.
Judy puts on her glasses, then consults a document.
Okay. So your husband was with another dog in the yard?
Yes.
So I brought this dog into my daughter's room, your 10-year-old daughter's room, to settle down.
Yes, Your Honor.
And then you don't know what happened because you weren't watching.
I was actually...
No, you were not watching. That's what it says here.
Well, I was taking pictures.
It doesn't make any difference. You weren't watching. You don't know what happened. If you were taking pictures, that would be on your camera.
I have pictures here of Dolce that I was actually sending to
No,
Mr.
I don't
Hernandez?
care. It would be on your camera if you were taking pictures. And if you were taking pictures, then you would have exactly what happened with the dog that caused the dog to have a broken leg. But you don't have those pictures. Am I correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
So that you were not watching and you did not see what happened at the moment the dog was injured?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
But I do have a witness that I brought with me, my daughter, who actually did see as I was sending pictures to Ms. Hernandez.
You sure you want to do that? Are you sure you want to do that? Be very careful, Miss Vieira. Are you sure you want to put her there for me to question? Are you sure? Are you sure?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, Your
I don't
Honor.
think, yeah, I don't think so. But it's your choice. Let's go. I want you to tell me something that I'm going to believe, that you and your mother were in the room with your 10-year-old sister and you saw what happened with the dog. Yeah. Just a second. I want you to make sure that that's what you're telling me. So you were in the room?
Yes, I was.
Okay. Your first name is?
Abigail.
I'd like to see a picture of Abigail in the room with the dog when you were sending pictures, allegedly, to the plaintiff of the dog. I just want to see pictures of her in the room.
Your Honor, I did not make pictures of those.
Why not? She was there. You were taking pictures of the dog. I assume your 10-year-old's room is not the size of this courtroom. So if you were taking pictures, Abigail would be in those pictures.
Your Honor, I actually have a picture of her leg after I was bit by Dolce.
I don't care after you were bit by Dolce. You were bit by the puppy because she was injured.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. That was after she was injured.
Yes.
I want to see a picture of your daughter that you were taking pictures of, allegedly to send to the plaintiff to show her how the dog was adjusting.
I do not have pictures of that,
Right.
Your Honor.
Yeah. Miss Vieira, do you want to know the truth? I don't believe you were in the room with your daughter, either one of them, and the puppy. I think that you left the puppy with your 10-year-old, and you don't know what happened. That's what I believe. And whether I believe, and it's accurate or not accurate, the dog was injured in your care. So you're responsible for the surgical bill. It's that simple. Dog got a broken leg in your care with enough adults there to watch the dog, your husband, the older daughter, and you put her in the room with your 10-year-old because you thought it would be cute. Your 10-year-old wanted to play with her. That's what happened. Can I see the vet bill, please?
Yes, Your Honor. I have the urgent care bill and the surgery bill as well.
Sophia hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy for review.
So the invoice was $58.18?
For the surgery.
And $862. $66.08, judgment for the plaintiff. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
You know, I'm happy because those vet bills are really high. You know, it's not something that you could take on at the time.
I was in the room with the dog. The dog jumped from the floor, and it was a freak accident. But
my dog was healthy, you know. She had just been at the vet. She's gotten her shots. She was healthy.
I still don't know. I researched online. I think maybe that the dog already had an injury prior. She was at my house 25 minutes.
I would never drop off my dog like that.
She jumped up to retrieve a toy out of my daughter's hand from the floor, a fluffy carpet, and she landed and cried.
With a pre-existing condition, I would watch her myself.
About 3 minutes after, I called her mom to let her know that she was hurt, injured.
You know, my heart dropped. You know, I was upset we didn't go on the trip, but just my baby. Turned around.
She wanted to know how bad it was because she wanted to go on her trip, and I told her it was bad enough for her dog to bite me.
We took her straight to the urgent care.
I asked her to come back to get her dog. I didn't want to move the dog, so she came back and had us bring the dog out.
She had a fractured leg.
Freak accident, kind of feel like, I don't know, it wasn't fair.
They didn't give me one. They just ignored my messages asking for payment.
I'm glad the dog's okay.
Dilta's great. Her leg is healed. She's on a recovery program.
Judy and Sarah.